What happens when the military backbone of NATO begins preparing for a future with fewer American forces? The answer could reshape defense spending, aerospace manufacturing, and industrial investment across the Western world. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has announced a formal review of American troop deployments in Europe, while NATO allies are already moving to fill potential capability gaps. Welcome back to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Today, we're counting down the 5 biggest developments behind this historic shift, why Canada's role is expanding faster than many expected, and how factories, not battlefields, could ultimately determine who benefits most from NATO's next chapter. Number 5. Pentagon Review. NATO faces a strategic turning point. The first development begins in Washington. On June 18th, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced a formal review of American military deployments across Europe. The Pentagon will assess whether NATO members are moving quickly enough to strengthen their own defense capabilities and reduce reliance on U.S. support. While no troop withdrawals have been announced, the review alone is drawing attention across the alliance. For decades, NATO planning relied heavily on American forces, intelligence networks, logistics systems, and advanced military platforms. Much like an automaker redesigning a vehicle around a new powertrain, any adjustment to NATO's structure could require major changes throughout the entire system. Governments, military leaders, and defense manufacturers are already evaluating what a future with fewer American assets might mean for procurement, investment, and long-term strategic planning. But reviewing troop deployments is only the beginning. The much bigger challenge is determining who will replace capabilities that allies have depended on for decades. Number 4. Capability Gap Alert. NATO scrambles to adapt. The review is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte recently confirmed that alliance members have already begun addressing capability gaps linked to reduced U.S. contributions in certain crisis response roles. Several capabilities previously supplied by Washington may not be available at the same levels in the future. These include fighter aircraft, surveillance platforms, drones, logistics support, maritime assets, and specialized defense systems. Replacing such capabilities is not as simple as placing an order. Similar to expanding production of a high-performance engine, building advanced military hardware requires years of engineering, testing, workforce training, and factory expansion. As a result, defense manufacturers across Europe and North America are seeing new opportunities emerge. If allies are expected to carry more responsibility, governments will likely increase spending on aerospace production, advanced electronics, communication systems, sensors, and next-generation defense technologies. And as NATO searches for new suppliers and industrial partners, one recent agreement is suddenly taking on far greater significance than anyone expected. Number 3. Safe Deal. Canada gains a powerful advantage. Canada recently became the first non-European nation granted access to the European Union's €150 billion Security Action for Europe, or SAFE procurement initiative. The program aims to strengthen European defense manufacturing and accelerate investment across the continent. Initially, SAFE was viewed largely as a procurement and industrial cooperation framework. But with NATO preparing for a potentially larger European defense role, its importance has grown considerably. Europe will need more than funding. It will need production capacity, supply chains, engineering expertise, and trusted industrial partners. That is where Canada enters the equation. Canadian firms may now compete for contracts involving aircraft systems, surveillance technologies, electronics, command and control platforms, and other advanced defense equipment. What seemed like an important agreement last week could become one of the most strategically valuable industrial partnerships in the Western defense sector. But gaining access to SAFE is only part of the story. The bigger question is whether Canada can transform that opportunity into a much larger role inside NATO itself. Number 2. Rising influence. Canada steps into a bigger role. Canada's role within NATO is evolving faster than many expected. For years, discussions about alliance capability gaps focused primarily on Europe's largest military powers. Today, Canada is increasingly viewed as part of the solution. As NATO members seek additional aircraft, surveillance platforms, drones, naval assets, and advanced technologies, Ottawa is pursuing a broader strategy centered on domestic manufacturing and aerospace growth. Canada already possesses world-class expertise in aircraft production, avionics, simulation technology, sensors, and mission systems. Much like a modern vehicle program relies on thousands of specialized components working together, NATO's future capabilities will depend on a sophisticated industrial network. Rather than acting solely as a customer purchasing foreign equipment, Canada is positioning itself as a supplier, innovator, and long-term contributor to the alliance's evolving defense industrial ecosystem. Before we reveal what could become the biggest winner of this entire NATO transformation, take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Here on Piston Pundit, we follow the factories, supply chains, engineering breakthroughs, and industrial shifts that shape the future long before the headlines catch up. Because while troop deployments dominate the headlines, the most important battle may ultimately be taking place somewhere very different. Number 1. Factory floor showdown, the biggest winner emerges. The biggest consequence of this story may not involve troop deployments at all. It may involve manufacturing. As NATO members invest in greater self-reliance, demand for surveillance aircraft, drones, helicopters, radar systems, satellites, naval platforms, and missile defense technologies could accelerate throughout the next decade. Every one of those systems requires engineers, production facilities, skilled trades, advanced materials, and resilient supply chains. For automotive enthusiasts, the similarities are striking. Modern defense manufacturing depends on many of the same foundations found in vehicle production: precision machining, robotics, software integration, electronics, battery technology, composites, advanced metallurgy, and highly trained workers. Whether troop levels ultimately change or not, one trend is becoming increasingly clear. The future of NATO may depend as much on industrial capacity as it does on military strategy. And that brings us to the broader conclusion behind all 5 developments. Final verdict: NATO's future may be built in factories. The Pentagon's review does not guarantee a major reduction in American forces across Europe. However, it does signal that Washington wants NATO allies to assume greater responsibility for their own defense. Across the alliance, governments are already responding by expanding procurement plans, increasing capabilities, and strengthening industrial partnerships. At the same time, Canada's access to the European Union's €150 billion SAFE initiative places Canadian manufacturers in a potentially strong position as defense spending grows. What once appeared to be separate developments are increasingly becoming part of the same larger story. The question is no longer whether NATO is changing. The transformation is already underway. The next question is, which countries and industries will help build the aircraft, drones, surveillance systems, electronics, and advanced technologies needed for the future? Now we'd like to hear from you. Could Canada become one of the biggest industrial winners from NATO's changing priorities? Will Europe successfully reduce its dependence on American military capabilities over the next decade? Which sector stands to benefit the most? Aerospace, defense electronics, advanced manufacturing, or another industry? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. For the latest updates on the automotive world and more in-depth analysis, subscribe to Piston Pundit and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.